Thank you for listening to the Gateway to the Rockies podcast from Visit Aurora, from the rafters of the Stanley Marketplace. This is the show dedicated to telling the stories of Aurora, Colorado. Hi there, I'm Dave, the Director of Marketing for Visit Aurora. I'm honored to welcome Bruce Trujillo, the founder of Manos Sagrados, a new arts and music venue on East Colfax that's creating a home for creative expression, cultural connection, and community storytelling. Bruce has been a driving force in Colorado's music and art scene for years and is helping to shape the future of Aurora's creative landscape. Bruce, thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Can you share a little bit about your journey growing up here and what led you to a passion in the arts?
Sure. I was born in Denver, raised on the Western Slope. I went to college in Grand Junction, but I was raised in a musical family. My stepdad was in a band. We had music playing all the time. My mom is an artist, and so those passions just kind of fell into my cup. And I am also a painter, a muralist. I'm a musician, and I just love music. I remember when I was 15, I just wanted to listen to music for a living, get paid to listen to music. And that happened. I jumped into radio in college, and then the rest kind of fell into place from there. So just passionate about the arts, about music very specifically, and growing up doing commercial radio. That was kind of my first career. I've done radio in Grand Junction, Boulder, Denver. I'm still volunteering at a radio station, but now opening this art space, I wanted to blend everything that I'm passionate about, which also includes movement and bringing in options for dance classes, for yoga, for breath work. So it's a smaller space, but we really house a lot within our building.
I have to ask my fellow radio nerds, do you still have dead air dreams?
Oh, yeah. Or playing like an FCC incorrect song. Like I'll be listening to music, and it's kind of quelled a little bit at this point, but I'm like, why isn't this edited?
Right.
That's the one.
Do you remember the first maybe album that you bought when you were you had your own money, you were able to make your own creative decisions? Do you remember that first maybe cassette or CD that you bought that was purely your taste and your vibe?
Well, it wasn't. Yes, and I remember the first boombox my parents gave me, because that's how old I am. They had just gotten a brand new 5-disc changer, and they said, take this. You can record any of the CDs that we have onto tape from it. And I chose, and I still stand by this decision, Elton John's Madman Across the Water.
Well done.
And I just remember listening to it and just getting so excited that it was recording to the tape. And then, growing up in a small town, I was more MTV inclined, so fell into pop music. But then after that, after kind of coming out of that fog, it was a lot of punk rock and a lot of hard rock. And so I don't know, those types of things blending in and kind of creating the bedrock for my musical expression.
Can you articulate what it means to have an education in the arts growing up? How does that help inform a young person as they develop a well-rounded perspective of the world?
I think having an arts background or having access to the arts, it just gives you, I think, a wider perspective. You're seeing all of these different types of movements, whether it's in music, whether it's paintings, whether it's dance, whatever it is, you're seeing and feeling to your core different perspectives from around the world, from different people that look different, sound different, live different from you. And so I think you create a little bit more empathy, you make decisions a little bit differently, and it's really also coming down to the basics that people want children to learn. It's all math, it's all science, all of it, painting. Mm-hmm. You have to know the right ratios to make the right color and the right amount to put onto the painting. With music, it's all math. And it makes it a little bit more accessible for folks when you realize that. I always feel like I'm not a mathematically inclined person, but then I remember, as a musician, I have to be mathematically inclined.
It's just a different type of math,
exactly.
Right?
So it offers a different perspective on a lot of different types of things that we have to utilize in the world. But most of all, I think it connects people in a way that nothing else can. You feel it in your heart, you feel it in your body, you feel it in your brain. And it's just this alchemical connection that we have to different people throughout the world.
Difficult to truncate almost 2 decades working in the scene. But can you take me from 2006 up until the point you decide you're going to open Manos Sagrados?
Sure. Most of it is radio based. I started in college radio, KMSA, the alternative out of Grand Junction, Colorado. And that was really amazing because it was a metal and punk station, which I didn't know existed, especially coming out of Rifle, Colorado.
Yeah.
So my access into that was really easy. That's what I was listening to, and just getting a wider variety of music, a bigger library, different access into things, and then also beginning to meet people in the local music scene and beginning to throw DIY shows more often and getting all of these different types of connections made. So I decided, I wanted to work in radio, but I don't know, college radio is a different breed of animal. Luckily, that's kind of when more community stations were becoming more well-known. I became the music director at KAFM in Grand Junction. That's their community station. And that opened up, that cracked open the egg more wide than I could ever imagine. That plays every type of music. So I kind of also had to step out of my comfort zone. That was rock music, and really need to enjoy a lot of different types of music because I was the music director. I had to put out the best of the best for our DJs to play from. Became the music director at KGNU in Boulder for a very brief period of time. And then my longest stint was at Colorado Public Radio. I was the programming assistant for Open Air, which is now Indie 102.3. Worked my way up through there. I was the assistant program director by the time I left. And then I decided to work in live music. Became the concert director at Swallow Hill Music Association, working in the 3 venues in that building. Started booking at Denver Botanic Gardens, 4 Mile Historic Park, and some of the other partners that they have throughout the city. And officially stepped into a role at the Underground Music Showcase. So I am still a talent buyer with the UMS, but all of it kind of came together. And I remember writing down in a journal in 2021, I should open my own venue. And that was just a far off dream. And then a trip to Mexico City Art Week in 2023 really opened my eyes to, I can make a multi-use space. The idea was to have a music venue on the ground floor and then studio spaces above. Well, the space that we're in at Manos Sagrados at this point has the venue on the ground space and artist studio spaces in the basement. And so it really became this thing that was just perfect for the vision that I had.
You almost manifested it, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And it moved so fast. I had that idea in March of 2023, and by October of that year, we signed our lease, and now here we are. We're doing it.
Did you see a gap in venue availability, particularly for certain types of art or certain types of artists?
Yes, and Denver and the surrounding area is super saturated with amazing music venues. We have obviously world-class venues like Red Rocks, and we have some really beautiful independent venues that the High Dive has my heart for my entire life. But working in the industry for 20 years, you see the inequalities that happen within race, within gender, within sound, within, a lot of different types of things, right? So I really wanted to create a space where people felt like they were seen and heard, baked into it. I didn't want to try and retrofit people into a space where they didn't previously feel welcome or they didn't see themselves on stage ever. And so, having our first event as a sonidero, which is, a Mexico City-based DJ night. We have a couple of folks doing that here in Denver now. That was our very first event. And then going into cumbia nights, and then, just building off of these things that I enjoy, that my community enjoys, my team participates in already. It already feels baked in, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback that people say, these cumbia nights don't feel like they're trying to just, fit it in somewhere. It feels very intentional, and we feel like we belong here already. And so that's been overwhelming to hear that, and very humbling. And it's, this is something that makes me feel like, oh yeah, this is worth it. It's not as terrifying because people see it and feel it and want to come out.
Tell me about the name itself, Manos Sagrados, what it means to you and how it reflects the mission of the space?
Sure. Manos Sagrados is Spanish for sacred hands. And for native Spanish speakers, you know that it is grammatically incorrect. It should be Manos Sagradas. But we are a queer-owned and operated establishment. And we also kind of want to poke a little bit at the colonial language of Spanish. It's not the Mexican language. That's Nahuatl and whatever native languages were down there first. So kind of tweaking it a little bit. It kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit more fun, I guess we could say. But the name kind of came from a cleansing that I had a couple of years ago, a traditional indigenous cleansing. And the woman kind of passed over my hands and asked if I was an artist. And I replied yes. And she said, yes, you have a lot of stories to tell. You have sacred hands. And that just kind of stuck with me. This happened, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment. And so as I was putting together the art space in my mind, it was like, well, I want people who are creative and who are making things with their hands, painters, muralists, musicians, people who are really doing the tactile things that also transcend into that sacred space. I want them to have a home. And so it became Manos Sagrados. And, I drew up that logo in 2020. And it just felt like, on top we can really spotlight folks, and then below we're supporting them. And so it's just this nice movement as well. And so it really just all came together just based off of this one limpia or cleansing that I had a couple of years ago.
East Colfax is almost a poetic location for such a venue. Rich diversity, rich history. Was that intentional or serendipitous?
Very serendipitous. I still pinch myself. Like, I opened a venue on Colfax Avenue. Growing up in the Denver music scene and coming and seeing shows all up and down Colfax, I never thought that was going to be possible. It wasn't even entering into my mind as a possibility. But everything about the space was very serendipitous. I was actually speaking with Aaron at the People's Building about a different type of partnership that I could do with my old job, and offhand mentioned, like, kind of want to open my own venue. Yeah. And he said, next door is actually up for rent. Do you want me to connect you with the landlords? And it was like, well, what's the worst that can happen? And 2 years later, well, we have a venue. But yeah, it's amazing. And still just like for a lot of my team who grew up in Denver in the music scene, it's like, oh my God, we're on Colfax. This is amazing. But then even deeper, you said, the diversity along the street in that neighborhood, 160 different languages spoken within that square mile. It's like these are the people we want to be working with and that we want to highlight. And, it's perfect for what we want to be doing.
It's not as easy as just, I'm going to open up a space. What have been some of the challenges, the surprises, and maybe some of the early wins since opening your doors?
So I mentioned that we signed our lease in October of 2023. We thought we were good to go to just start going. Yeah. Just start painting, building out the bar. We went to go get our liquor license the week after we got our lease signed, and the city said, you don't have the occupancy for this. And so it's been over a year waiting to get the building up to code and figure out the layout. Building out the bar was actually part of the structure to get that occupancy. So that was the biggest surprise. And that's been the longest kind of hurdle that we've been trying to get over. And we're just about to get our liquor license. We also realized at the end of last year, 2024, we either have to open or this is not going to happen. And so once we got our certificate of occupancy, the building was just white inside, big white blank walls. And so it became this thing where, okay, we're going in and painting for 12 hours a day. Yeah. And, it doesn't seem like it's that much wall space, but it turned out to be a lot of wall space. And that was just me and my partner going in and doing that and staying up until 2, 3, 4 in the morning, right, getting the murals on and getting it ready. And mid-December, it was like, well, okay, let's start doing stuff in January. I don't know what we're going to do yet, but we'll figure it out. And thankfully, our friend reached out about doing that sonidera for New Year's Eve, and we jumped at it. And thankfully, that went pretty well. And, we have a ton of amazing options for New Year's Eve parties throughout the Denver Metro and in Aurora, but we still packed in. It wasn't completely sold out, but it got pretty close. So for a new venue, for a spot that didn't have a liquor license, nobody had heard of us just yet. So that was pretty surprising. We had our first sellout show at the end of January with one of our cumbia nights featuring Gio Chamba, who has done a lot of work with us. And now we're getting some of our friends that we know nationally who do a lot of cumbias. It's becoming like our bread and butter, which I'm totally fine with.
Yeah.
They're reaching out to us to book. And so it's growing. It's getting its own legs underneath it. And what's also been surprising is just seeing the people that come through. I expect my community to come in and support, of course, but there's been so many people from just the neighborhood that said, oh, I read about this, I heard about it, I just wanted to come and check it out, and getting some really amazing feedback from them, which is, again, heartening and humbling. And we're really excited to see the growth.
Almost 2 decades of you supporting the scene, creating avenues for artists to express themselves, booking talent, facilitating venues and whatnot. You open your own venue. Did you find some reciprocity in that, where the scene that you have helped cultivated was now coming to support you as well? And I imagine that was affirming. Was that the experience?
Yeah, really. I mean, we did a crowdfunding investment opportunity when we first announced that we were getting the building. And we have over 100 investors, and most of those folks are musicians or other music industry professionals. And then just folks sharing out what we're doing or coming in. And I have to remind myself too, like, not everybody, I don't have to give the homie discount out to everybody as much as I like, just take this drink, take my product. And they're like, no, we want to support, charge me the full price. So that has been just, it has filled me up so much to kind of see the support that I've received, and from folks that I don't even know who used to listen to me on the radio, and they just followed the journey, and they just want to see it succeed. And it's a much bigger thing than just the work that I've put in or that my team has put into the community. It's now the community really supporting itself and seeing different people come in. So yeah, it makes me feel a little bit overwhelmed to see the support.
Quick sidebar back to radio. I can't help myself,
yes.
But I worked at the big corporate Death Star, basically. And I just want to express to you our envy that we had that, at 102.3, there was this creative space where actual, creativity and artistry was being showcased. And that's not to say that everybody in commercial radio doesn't do some form of that, but it was really awesome to see that you were actually helping cultivate a scene, whereas you weren't, fulfilling a corporate mandate, so to speak.
And that's why I love non-commercial radio. I mean, I interned at a commercial conglomerate in college, and it was fun. You got a lot of opportunities to be out in the community, but getting local musicians played was kind of like pulling teeth. Yeah. And again, here in Denver, we actually have a few radio stations that are on the commercial level that do that, and it's beautiful. But yeah, the space at Indy 102.3 and / open air, it was, we're putting together lineups, and we're putting together things that we can showcase. And I was in charge of booking the performance studio. So getting folks in there and getting them video and audio that they could use then in their EPKs, electronic press kits. That fulfilled me so much, because it was like, oh yeah, you can go on to the next level if you want, or, folks being featured on NPR Music on a national level. Yeah. I mean, that space is so sacred.
Tell me about Raw Groove, Field Trip, and some of the other programming that is happening in the present and that you're looking forward to this year.
Sure. And actually, both of those that you just mentioned are in partnership with Control Group Productions, which is a local theater, mostly company. Raw Groove is really featuring Afrobeat dance, and they came in and did a series of classes, including the night of the big performance, where folks could learn how to dance in a space that felt safe, not intimidating. Yeah. And then they brought in Off the Cuff, who is a group of musicians, very talented musicians, that normally do an improv night at Meadowlark Bar. And it was absolutely amazing. But the nice next step is that we are going to be featuring Raw Groove for a monthly dance class moving forward, beginning in May. Field Trip is also through Control Group Productions, but they're celebrating Colfax as this space for weirdos and outcasts, and kind of the history of the block that we're on. And so you go into those performances, and it's like, what what are we actually doing here? Like, people can go on stage and they can have these conversations. They can touch the music instruments and all that good stuff. And it's a very non-traditional performance. But then we're also moving forward with our monthly programming. We've got a lot of open mics, including our BIPOC open mic hosted by Bodies of Culture through the Levitt Pavilion. And that's been amazing and affirming to see how many folks are coming through to share their music and their medicine. We've got a comedy open mic. We've got open decks. So DJs from all types of levels can come in. If you're just learning, you can come in and share your music. Or if you're just trying to get a tight 15-minute set and you want to kind of play around with your set, we have that space as well. And then one of our favorites is the Clave Jam. So based off of the cumbia sounds, it's hosted by Diego Flores Arroyo, who performs in Los Mocochetes locally. And we're also welcoming Dominican artist Yacer Tejada to come in and help us with our next one. And that grew organically as well. He found us on Instagram, and his agent reached out and said, "Can we do something?" And we said, yes, 100%. We can do that.
Does that make your job easier when artists reach out to you and say, hey, we want to utilize this great space?
Yes. Because I have a full list of folks that I would love to book and that I want to work with. But, when they find us, we have another band, Tropa Mágica, who I've worked with in radio for 6 years. Their agent also reached out and said, oh, well, these guys are headed out on tour. They said they want your venue. Like,
nice.
Oh my God, that's amazing, because they've played a lot of different spaces in town already that would be all too happy to have them back. But it was a nice surprise to see that come in through the inbox.
I think one of the benefits of having a venue like yours is that you're accessible. Some of these bigger venues, you can't necessarily, there's layers of people you need to get through to get answers. And it's not so much the case with you. You created an accessible space. I imagine any artists listening, stand-ups, whatnot, can go to the website and get information on how they can be involved in the programming, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's just on our About page. You can fill out a form that goes directly to me and to a couple of the other team members. So you're not going to a box that's just going to be ignored. Mm-hmm. Somebody will get back to you, and if it's not the right fit, we'll also let you know. If it is, great. But we'll also give you options for, this might not be the right size. It might not be the right time of year. I mean, whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's us talking to people one-on-one. As
somebody who's been a part of the scene, how have you seen the scene evolve and change, and where do you see it going?
I always have to tell people that Denver has a really thriving music scene of all different types of genres. People hear that we're from Denver, that we're Colorado based, and the immediate thought is, oh, a lot of bluegrass. Yes, and we have these amazing genres and world-class musicians, truly. So I'm really excited to see folks delving a little bit more into, I don't want to call it experimental jazz, but less straight ahead jazz and kind of this fusion of different genres. And I'm excited to see more collaboration happening between artists that you wouldn't typically see together or expect to work together. So just singers from their own projects saying, oh yeah, I'd love to work with this Latin band or this pop band or even an Americana band. And it creates something very unique, and it's very Denver. And I will also say, working with a lot of people from around the country in the industry, particularly in radio, they say this market is like any other market. It's like Dallas, it's like Boston, but it isn't. And they get really surprised at how supportive artists are of each other. They put each other on. They recommend each other for venue space, for festival space, precious stage time. But they go, no, this band is really sick. You need to listen to them, as opposed to being cutthroat or, I deserve that spot. And it does surprise people after a couple of months, oh, people are genuinely excited to work together and support each other here.
There's room for us all to express and eat and grow.
Yes.
You're super busy all the time, running your facility, talent booking, all of that. Do you still have time to create and perform and express?
I do. And because I decided to go out on my own, that was a high priority for me with my time. I take off every Monday, and I actually go and paint with my grandmother, who is a lifelong artist as well. So we work on our separate projects. It's so cute. And it's, I get the feedback from a working artist as well. And so I make sure that I paint at least once a week, if not more. My band, who is very new, we have never performed live. It's coming, I promise. But we also make time to make sure that we're still practicing. And it helps that my partner is also an artist and musician, so we can jam together and just kind of organically create things. You know, we'll just be watching TV and he'll pull out the guitar and it's like, oh, okay, we're doing this now. Like, great.
It's important to stay connected to that, though.
Yes.
Because you're more than an administrator. You got into this because you love creating and artistry. So you have to stay connected to that. You have to make that a priority. It's great that you do.
Absolutely. And with radio, also volunteering at KGNU, the local community station. I have a show once a month, and that's been super important to me to stay connected to new music and be able to curate a playlist and share that out. So yes, it's very intentional, and that is time that nobody can touch. We're not having a meeting on Mondays because I have to go paint and I have to go spend time with family. Nice. So yes.
What inspires you, Bruce?
Mostly other people. Watching other people win and get out and be vulnerable with their art and their music. It's like, oh yeah, I can do that too, and I can make this work. It was. I never thought that I would be a venue owner or doing what I am doing, but other people make it possible and have been cheering me on. So a lot of that, and just kind of being able to explore our community. I grew up going to shows in Denver. I had no clue what Aurora was like.
Yeah.
Why would I come out to Aurora? Now I get it. And I love coming to Aurora and exploring parts outside of East Colfax, going over to Havana, and there's so much cool stuff happening in Aurora.
You have a 3-year kind of vision for the venue. Look into the best case scenario, future looking crystal ball. What are we looking like in 3 years with Manos Sagrados?
We are fully booked. We are open 7 days a week. Most of the day. So during the daytime, we'll be programming our movement classes, yoga, meditation, breath work, dance, whatever that looks like that day, and then headed into performances at night. And then we've also got all of our studios on the basement level filled in with different types of artists. And we're on our way, but having painters and tactile and textile artists in there. And we're also building our own podcast recording studio. So cool. We've gotten a lot of folks reach out about how can we do that. It's coming, I promise.
Yeah.
And just having that booked out as well. So I just want to utilize that space as much as possible and get as many creatives in there and getting their work out into the world. So in 3 years, it's gonna be hopping over at Manos.
Love that. Bruce, thank you for your light. Thank you for sharing your gift with us, and thank you for this incredible venue that's a great asset in Aurora.
Thanks for having me, and thank you. Can't wait to see everybody come out.
That was Bruce Trujillo, boss, leader, visionary of Manos Sagrados. Learn more at manossagrados.com, and make sure to follow on social media at Manos Sagrados. Thank you for listening to the Gateway to the Rockies podcast. Visit Aurora is the official destination marketing organization for the city of Aurora, Colorado, and acts as the primary liaison between meeting planners and hotel partners. As Aurora's Convention and Visitors Bureau, Visit Aurora's mission is grounded in showcasing Aurora as a premier destination for meetings, business, and leisure travel. Visit Aurora represents more than 75 plus hotel properties with 13,500 plus guest rooms and more than 1 million square feet of meeting space, including Colorado's largest resort, Gaylord Rockies Resort and Convention Center. As Colorado's third largest city, Aurora is located minutes away from Denver International Airport and showcases mountain views, memorable meeting spaces, and 250 plus international eateries that offer a unique experience for each and every visitor. As the gateway to the Rockies, Visit Aurora's role in the local community goes beyond marketing the city as a destination. The Visit Aurora team is here to assist you with your Colorado visit, from facilitating your meeting, event, or convention to helping you discover local flavor and attractions. Go beyond the boardroom in Aurora, Colorado. For more, visit us at visitaurora.com.